Welcome. This is David Boles' Human Meme. Today's topic, a life of curation. Curation is not always about collecting. Curation is the instance of discovery and feeding of the soul. Curation is not collecting, because collecting leads to anonymous, animated hoarding without context or texture. Curation is divine intervention, an intervention to help other people understand what is important, not just to you, but to the rest of the goodness of society. What thrives survives. That's where the indefinable passion comes into mark. If something is meant to sustain, it takes more than one person to press forward the idea. Ideas thrive in social settings where transference is colloquially tested for vitality and sustainability. The best overall keeper of curation is the writer, a trained writer with taste and genius, and the writer can overcome the dark forces that prefer to hide the truth and conceal facts in context. You curate that truth by squeezing it and tearing it and forming it into something understandable and righteous. Curation is deciding what belongs. We can't curate everything and hope it somehow has meaning. We'd get lost in the mush and the noise. So how do we decide what belongs? Our immediate instinct, that must be resisted, is to capture the familiar. But the more interesting choice of belonging is in the unexpected escape and the wanting and then sharing of the unknown. If you have many curiosities, arranging them against each other can provide a whole new healing for what parts it takes to make up a whole new whole. So what preserves us? Not what heals or saves us, but what intrinsically preserves the best of us. We should have no interest in curating evil and hatred, except to coldly acknowledge their depths on a yearly anniversary, so we and the future rest of us shall never forget. But preservation takes caring and kindness and a whittling eye to make right. We've discussed evil and its precocious memes that some expound to endure. But what about what deserves to be forgotten? Beyond evil, there's the mundane and the unruled and the unruly that do not deserve curation or preservation or belonging. Is deciding to junk them a form of curation? Is the mere act of saying, "This is not important," precisely what makes something absolutely vital? I believe the answer is no. Not every trash bin holds jewels, though some will spend their life tearing through other people's discards, searching for value. These are all difficult questions that come with wisdom and training and conversation. We are always evaluating ourselves against outcomes. And instead of predicting what will happen, we need to accept what will happen is what must happen. and we'll be content with that indirect curation in the overall life of our species. The most important curation is the one that is presided over every day and often goes unrecognized and unspoken. Each other. We are not each other's keeper, but we are each other's curators, and sometimes we can be made mistaken by that important task. Here's an example. Several years ago, when I first started teaching, I had a wonderful writing student. She wrote incredible stories that resounded well beyond her age and the page. I published many of her stories. As her instructor, I nominated her for a writing award, and she won. In addition to a certificate and some money, she was asked to read her nominated story to a live meeting of the university corps. My student was excited. She was nervous. She wanted to do well. She asked me to attend her presentation, and I agreed. She wanted to practice reading her story out loud, and I agreed to help her with that too. We practiced. She rewrote. Reading something aloud has a different rhythm and cant, and she wanted to make it all just right. And she did, through revision. Then I helped. Oof. She was stuck on a word. I think it was fair. And she didn't like that word because it wasn't rich enough in context for the rest of the sentence. So I suggested egalitarian instead. She scrunched up her nose and asked me what that meant. I told her it was a fancier synonym for the word fair, and she tried to pronounce it, and after a while she decided she grew to like the 6-syllable word as it rolled off the page and into her mouth. She practiced her presentation, and we corrected some more, and she was shined up, and she felt she was ready for her grand moment. On the night of her speech, everything was glistening and glowing. She was getting laughs as she read, and some tears about her upbringing and the father she didn't know. And then she came to the resolution of her story. The egalitarian part. And she slowed, paused, and stumbled a pronunciation of the word. Tripped over the word again, trying to make it right, and then continuing on, red-faced, she went to a quick conclusion. She received an overpowering standing ovation, but she gave me a look from the stage, and I knew what she meant. She had stumbled over my word, not her word, and it was the only mar on her perfect night. My boss, who was sitting next to me, noticed the glances between me and my student, and he too gave me a silent look and a shrug like, "What's going on?" And I sort of whispered back, "My word, not hers." And he knew. He nodded twice and recrossed his arms. Yikes. What a lesson for me! I had placed myself, my experience, my word, on a student's tongue, thinking I was helping her when all I was really doing was testing her durability and loyalty. When she asked for a different word, I should have simply helped her discover one and listened to her and let her lead herself to her own conclusion. Instead, I pried my way into her presentation, unwittingly and unintentionally, with a strange word she didn't know or understand before she heard it. And right there, at that first instant of pushback in her discomfort and strangeness, I should have withdrawn the suggestion and discouraged her from using that word. Egalitarian. Ugh. Her curator had become her jailer. We didn't let that tiny slip-up ruin the night. She became a star in the English department over the years, but I learned in my freshman year of teaching freshman English that sometimes the best instruction, the best curating of a talent that is not your own, is to let it breathe and make a mistake and help facilitate the finding of its own equilibrium on its terms, not yours. The joy in the curated discovery is in the finding, not in the changing. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.